Hi, I'm Wallace. I'm the founder and CEO of Above Board Financial, and welcome back to the story of Stephanie. And thank you again for choosing an internet video about insurance. Admittedly, not one of the most thrilling topics you could have selected, but definitely one of the best ones that your future self will be really glad that you took the time to look at. Now, we're talking about Stephanie, who's a high earning professional. She makes $360,000 a year. And we talked in previous videos about how the quote that she had settled on for herself is this quote, which costs $178 per month. You'll always hear me using round numbers because when you start doing dollars and cents, it's like this number soup that's a little bit unclear. So let's talk about why disability insurance is a good deal for Stephanie. Just step away from insurance for a minute and think about if Stephanie were considering two different job offers. Job A on the left-hand side would pay $18,000 a month of after-tax earnings. And if she got sick or injured in a way that she could no longer work, then she would get paid $10,800 a month, meaning that 60% of her income would be replaced. If she had any sort of disability that kept her from working, but including a scenario like what happened to her mom, where she received a breast cancer diagnosis and had to go through a really challenging treatment regimen. Now, there's a second job that Stephanie could also take, job B, where she gets paid a little bit less each month. She gets paid $17,822 after tax. But if she becomes too sick or injured to work, she actually gets a little bit of a raise. She's making $18,000 a month after tax. Which job would Stephanie take? Which job is she better off taking? Which job would her mom, who relies on her financially, and Dan, her boyfriend with whom she's planning to build a life that assumes that both of them are able to generate the level of income they do? Well, job A and job B are actually, job A is relying on workplace disability insurance paid for by her employer. And then job B is purchasing a supplemental individual disability insurance policy for $178 a month. And so I think when you frame it this way, you can see why it really makes sense for Stephanie to do this. Oftentimes with insurance, none of us loves paying premiums, but you really need to look at it in terms of personal risk management and making sure that your future self is in a place where if something difficult does come your way, you'll feel like, okay, I'm set up for this as best I can be. Let's just focus on the really difficult stuff and not have to worry about the finances. So lastly, I just wanted to mention too, that if for some reason $178 a month was just not possible for Stephanie, given budget constraints, the way that you can address that is to not let the perfect be the enemy of the good and just get something in place. Because let's say that Stephanie, we'll bring back the laser pointer here. Let's say that Stephanie felt that $2,060 per month was not available to her, then she could look at something like moving to a 5-year benefit period, which doesn't cover everything, but it does reduce the cost. And sometimes folks look at the table and feel like, the only thing I can really afford, which Stephanie earns so much money that this is not really her situation, but folks who are in different situations might decide that the 2-year benefit period is all they can afford, and that is still for sure so much better than having nothing in place. So that's why Stephanie should definitely get disability insurance, and why it's a really good deal for her to lock it in now. So join us in our next video to see why it's also important that she not wait.